Welcome to tonight's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. We have a special guest, Jesse Noble from Germ City Comic-Con and more. And as always, tonight's episode is brought to you by Are You Game, the best comic book video game collectible store in all of Pickle, Ohio. I am the only one that sells everything in Pickle.
Exactly.
I am the best. But all right, Jesse, we've got Germ City Comic-Con coming up. Explain some of what's going on with the dates and some of the people.
Man, I wish I told you I'd have to be led through this. I need my showrunner Amanda to help me remember all this stuff. Yeah, because the dates are escaping me right now. July 24th and 25th. That's when we're doing that. And no surprise, coming out of COVID, this has been a really tough show to put on. Not only have I been hard getting up for it, having been ready for like the last Germ City, it was going to be great. And then having to cancel, rebuild, deal with budgets. It's been hard for me to get up for that. And a lot of people still don't want to travel yet. That's what I got a lot from artists is like, I don't feel like I want to travel, or creators, or, let's plan on next year. So I got a lot of that, but I'm pretty happy with the guest list we've got together. We've got some old favorites, people that I love to see, a lot of local people. So I'm happy that they're willing to travel, and we're just going to keep on chugging along. Yeah, what was the question?
No, yeah. That's one of the things we ran into. I got people asking me because, we had the one plan for last year, the PickleCon. Right. The worst part about it is I just got my okay for the venue on the Friday before everything got shut down. So the venue was like, okay, we can run it this dates. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I was going to make the announcement on Monday.
Right.
And that was all shot to shit. And then I was going to do it this year. And then I'm watching all these other conventions, and like yours is everybody's moving around. People are trying to get those last 3 months of the year, trying to decide, which I'm like,
it's nuts. We picked our date for this year because we had to get one off, because if we didn't get one off, it would just be, we're out of people's memory. It'd be 2 or 3 years before we could get back into people's their calendar of things. But we decided that we were going to go on San Diego, because even if San Diego happened at the time, it wasn't canceled. There's lots of people from this side of the country that just don't go to, they just can't afford to. They're not interested in being in that big of a crowd, especially in a year like this year. I'm not interested in being in a crowd of 90,000 people or 50,000 people or 30,000 people. I just don't want to do it. So we put our dates right on that, knowing that a lot of the people west or east of the Mississippi were just not going to go out to San Diego. And that might be a trend going forward too. I mean, I don't know. I know of 1 or 2 dealers that from this side of the country that go out there, consistently. The people that usually come to Germ City, I mean. And then I know maybe 10 of the local artists that I know, maybe 10 of them go out to San Diego every year. So if we ended up on their dates, we'd lose them. And then people, I mean, do I know 6 or 7 people like who go to San Diego as fans from here? Maybe.
Well, the worst part about it is that I've said this every time I think I'm going to go to San Diego Comic-Con, I get free tickets,
right,
for every year, and it's like, okay, I'll go, and then it's like, can I justify that kind of money coming out for basically standing in line?
Right.
I mean, because if I want any of the exclusives, you got to stand in line. You got any one of the big guests out there, you're gonna have stand in line plus the money. And I'm like,
right,
yeah, I could do other things,
right. Absolutely.
I could buy a collection of what I'd spend to go out there to so
right. I have a good friend that goes there every year. Of course, he lives in San Jose, so it's not that. And they used to live in San Diego, and so it wasn't a big deal for them to travel into town to go to the show. But if I didn't live there, I don't know that I'd want to go there at all. I don't like big crowds anyway. I mean,
see, I'm not. as I get older, I find myself not liking that at all.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I am, you know, when I was younger, it was like, whatever, you know, it's what it is. And now as I'm like, man, I was like, I don't want to be packed in a room with that level of people. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll still go to, like, you know, Motor City or something like that, you know, or one of the bigger ones local. And even that sometimes can get a little, like, you know, you're on top of each other a little bit, and especially nowadays.
Yep.
I
On Detroit, you know, because I did the big Detroit show for a number of years, and it you know, towards the end of my tenure there, it was miserable on Saturday because, no kidding, 30,000 people, 40,000 people. So, you know, and we were, you know, kind of sequestered behind a booth, so we didn't have to deal with it so much, but it was just a wash of people that just walked by, just, you know, moving in the crowd. Nobody could stop and shop and look through bins and stuff like that. But Sunday, it became to where Friday and Sunday were the big days for the dealers. Other than that, like Saturday, I sat and twiddled my thumbs and, you know, and watched the crowd go by.
Well, I hear one of the problems is that with, like, these larger shows is they're not, you know, Gem City is definitely a vendor show. You know, a lot of these shows like that are vendor shows, but you start getting to these big conventions where it's, I don't call them comic conventions anymore. They're pop culture conventions. You know, it's all about having the big name guy off of Walking Dead or somebody who is from Avengers or whatever.
Right.
Those people that are coming to those conventions are not there to buy comics. They're not there to buy toys. They're there to get their autographs. They're there to get their photo ops and go home.
Right.
They don't. I've talked to other people who are like, yeah, I won't do them anymore. My favorite story is a few years ago, I had Wizard World call me, and they're like, hey, we want you to come set up at our show. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And they're like, well, we'll give you discounted tables. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Right.
And they're like, well, what would it take for you to come to our show and set up? I was like, you couldn't give me tickets to come to your show to set up.
Right.
And they were like, well, we didn't offer you tickets. I'm like, I know. I'm just saying is that you could give me free tables and I still can't justify the amount of money I'd have to spend.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's probably Chicago. Chicago is the one that they asked me to come to, and I don't even have a shop. But they, you know, it was, you know, because that one of the Wizard shows, that one is still a big comic show. But no, I'm not going to drive to Chicago and stay in Chicago and pay parking in Chicago, you know, for a crowd that is there to see actors and stuff like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because I love actors. I love seeing actors. I can't bring myself to pay for an autograph or a picture, but I love, like, being there early. And like the one in Columbus, I went to the Wizard World in Columbus, and Jason Moabi, whatever his name is, Momoa, walked right by me and, you know, gave Izzy a fist bump, you know, as he's walking into the place. That's fun. I like that sort of thing and stuff. But it shows like Gem City and stuff. You're right. It, you know, when I go to those big shows that are like that, it doesn't help me sell comic books. It doesn't further the cause of comic books and readership and such like that. So I didn't want Gem City to be like that, you know. And don't get me wrong. I've turned down lots of opportunities for great, you know, actors, people that want it, you know, and media guests and stuff like that. And it's always like, oh man, I can't believe that he wants to come. No, that's not what we do here. I would love to do it, but it's just not what we do here.
There's for me, I want to do comic book people, you know, writers, artists, whatnot. There's legit like one guy who I thought about, I've actually talked to, and I would actually justify it because he covers like 3 things. Right. And that was Sergeant Slaughter.
Nice.
Because he's G.I. Joe, the toy. He's in the comic books.
Right.
And he's the wrestler.
Absolutely. Speaking of wrestlers, you know, and this guy's kind of from your neck of the woods, but Al Snow's coming to Gem City this year.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I have met him, but he wouldn't remember it. But you know, when he's coming with a book that he did with Broken Icon.
Yeah. The Al Snow comic. Yeah. His life story. Yep.
Yeah. It's called The Ballad of Al Snow and Head. And, so he's coming as a creator. He brings all the, the rest of him with him, but he's coming as a comic book creator. So I was like, yeah, that works.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put a pause in here.
My husband is about to eat a new candy. New super fruity bonkers. My son thought bonkers was gum. He knows it's candy now. Chewy fruity candy with this extra fruity inside. So super fruity when you eat bonkers fruit candy.
Bonkers. Bonks you out.
Some candy.
Let's have a Play-Doh party! Yeah! A shooting star!
You can make all sorts of great things with a Play-Doh Fun Factory.
I made spaghetti!
And now you can get a Play-Doh Fun Flyer free when you buy Fun Factory in specially marked packages. It's lots of fun and little enough to take with you wherever you go, while supplies last. The Play-Doh Fun Factory toy comes with everything you see here. From Kenner.
Be careful! This place is crawling with biker scouts! Don't worry, they're not meant for us Ewoks!
From Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi collection, new Wicket W. Ark and Princess Nisa, each sold separately.
Quiet, Nisa, here comes a biker scout! Ayala! Let's go! Yibanga! He's gaining on us! Aye! Head for the forest! Close call! Yub, yub!
New Wicket W. Warwick and Princess Nisa, each sold separately from Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi collection.
But okay, let's get back to what we were talking about.
All right, back into it.
But yeah, there's with trying to justify, I've had because I've only done my show a handful of times technically. You're heading into, what year is this one this year?
It's the 15th show. It should have been the
16th.
16th. Yeah.
So it's but yeah, I mean, we get those people who contact us who are like, hey, we're able for this show, whatever, and then they start quoting their prices, and I'm like, I can't justify that kind of money going out because I don't think you're going to bring that kind of people in. So
right. If they do, it's a big outlay of money. I mean, nobody knows this. You do, and other people that do it, but there's not a lot of it's not a lot of money in convention promotion. You do it because you love it, and you make, the effort you put into putting on a show like that comes back over the years. It's not just 1 year. It's man. No. Remember Paul had that show in Piqua. I'm going to go run up to his shop and see if he wants to buy this, or see. Yes, that's where the payoff is. It comes in drips and drabs for years. Not, I just had the show and now I've got a big stack of cash. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen.
People love that one. My whole thing is that right now when I do a show, basically the show I kind of am a wash on after I pay for the venue, advertising, stuff like that. I sometimes I have helpers and stuff like that. I pay them. By that time it's all said and done, the actual show for me is a wash.
Yeah,
I make all my money either the day of the show off of what I sell personally, or the following weeks where I get all the people who come in the shop that later who are like, oh yeah, well I was just at your show. Then they're like, well, you told me that you had this. Yes, I do. I have it over here now. See, I don't bring everything to a show because then I would I can't do that.
Right, but that's the value of doing it. I mean, and I don't have a shop. So it's repeat business, and I do shows all over. So when people see me in Columbus or they see me in Kentucky, it's like, oh, it's the guy that does Germ City, and it helps help me buy his collections. If I just went around with just a business card and sort of a shingle, people would be like, man, this guy's fly by night. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to trust him. But I people see that putting on the show for 15 or 16 years, always being at the show. I've got some skin in the game. I'm not a ripoff artist. No. And I think that's helpful to people at all. That I'm not just here today for your collection. I'm going to be in Dayton, You know, it's a really small community, you know.
Oh, it definitely is.
So one jerk, you know, one rip-off move, and they all talk to each other, you know, collectors all talk to each other, and you're known. It's done. You can rip off one person one time, and then
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not going to say whose shop this is. I'm not going to put anything out there. I don't want this to come back. But you know, I've gotten up in Piqua. People will come up to me and they're like, "Yeah, so this is what the store down here is doing." Yeah, especially like current week books.
right,
And say a book drops, you know, on Wednesday, but on Monday somebody says, "Oh, it's the first appearance of somebody. It's a $20 book on Wednesday when it comes out."
right,
File customers will get mad because they go to get their file out and suddenly there's a $20 book in their file.
yeah,
And I'm like, no, I won't do that. That's super shady. But you know, if I have them on the shelf, those get pulled.
absolutely.
But my file customers will be taken care of. And see, that's just another thing is that goes on. Your regular customers will tell other people that, hey, you know, this guy watches out for you. He makes sure that you get your stuff, whatever. And, you know, I hate to say this, I've been 50, going on 32 years in this business. I started
Right.
at 15. People know me that haven't seen me in 10 years.
Right.
And they're like, "Oh man, I remember you. You were, you know, this kid that used to sit over in Indiana and stuff like that." I'm like, "Yeah, that was me." And they're like, "Oh yeah," and that rapport is still there because you know I did them good 10 years ago.
Right.
So you know, kid 10 years ago, 37, 10 years ago, but you know, it's you know, it goes back to I remember people who knew me from back when I was still in high school.
Right.
What we used to do I had to explain to this a while back that we would do the 2 shows over in Columbus. You do like 1 show in Indianapolis. You did Sharonville. You did Cincinnati. You
Right.
sometimes do Toledo. You go up into Michigan. So you do like, you know, here and there, them little shows up in Michigan. I was like, but that was every weekend, sometimes twice a weekend. You know,
Yep.
there was a Dayton show. There was the Dryden Road show and then the Holiday Inn show. And that was one was on a Saturday and one was on a Sunday. And they were literally 2 miles apart.
Yep.
And they were still doing, but that people remembered me from those days of traveling around. They're like, was you still hang with that fat guy? I'm like, yeah, he's still my best friend. And I was like, yeah, my favorite one was last time you saw him, like yesterday. We went to the gym together. So and you know, it's funny to still have that to this day with some of those people from back in the day.
Right.
And it's incredible that like you said, people do not forget. If they were taken care of by a guy 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they will still go to that guy.
Absolutely. And people are creatures of habit. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they'll just they'll keep coming back because that's what they do. It's Wednesday. I go get my books on Wednesday.
Mhm.
And that's just what people do.
Oh,
And
yeah.
God love them for it. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and by the same token, dealers is a really small community too. And we all talk to each other. And if you're a crappy customer, everybody knows.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Everybody knows if you're
That
a
happened
crappy-
relatively recently.
Right. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it, but
No.
all that just doesn't make any sense to me. Either way, I just gosh. But yeah, it's a real small community. You know, a lot of you like to think that a lot of these shops are in competition, and they are, but they're looking out for each other. If something happened, you know, he's on the, you know, this shop guy's like, if something happened at your stop, like if somebody took a bunch of books out of your store, you could get on the phone and call Vandalia, you know, you could call Inglewood, you could call down into Dayton, you call it the Fairborn, and all those guys would look out for your books.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if they walked in, you'd get a phone call.
Oh yeah. Well, I just had to a couple years back. I had to basically take a guy who was stealing magic cards,
Right.
and he was acting like whatever. Yeah, I'm like, dude, you don't realize I will tell everybody.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's from Lima to Cincinnati to Northern Kentucky to Indianapolis to Columbus. I was like, you will not be able to sell cards anywhere
Right.
because you're a thief. And he's just like, whatever. And I've never seen him again, but,
Right.
and I've told everyone, like, be on the lookout for this guy. I was like, he's a thief, watch your stuff. And everybody's like, I've never seen him. So last time I heard he moved to West Virginia. So evidently I have to talk to people from West Virginia.
I got a list of people who call in West Virginia.
Yeah, it's like, watch out for this guy right here.
Right.
He's a thief. But yeah, it was like right now, this is gonna go out. As of this going out, 2 weeks ago, Brian and Vandalia got broke into. You
Right.
hear about that?
Yep.
Okay. And I'm gonna look at it. I know kind of some of the stuff that got stolen.
Right.
But I don't know everything. So I'm on the lookout at this stuff.
I got a list. I got a list. Yeah, Brian's is where I keep my file, and it's they came in and took all his new books that day. They took the Marvel and the DC. This was on like a Wednesday night because he had closed up.
Yeah.
And had them out for the next day, and they got those books, and then they went through got a Marvel premiere. I think 32.
Yeah, they got his Batman the Damned. Yeah, it was a 9.9. Yep.
Yeah, and so that sort of stuff, and then they taken a stack of Dr. Aphra from the week before, and I don't know what you're going to do with store stock quantities if not open a store. I mean, because you couldn't walk into any other shop and be like, hey, here's a short box of brand new books
from Wednesday. Yeah, everybody's gonna be like, no, where'd you get these?
Not only that,
bring them right here. Let me start filling out some paperwork. Here. Yeah,
right.
So
it doesn't make sense. None of that makes sense. I don't know why that happened.
Oh yeah, well, we had one time the mall, somebody stole magic cards from the mall. The guy came to me and just the whole deal seemed bad. They hadn't gotten to me yet. This is all within less than an hour. This guy legit went from the mall, stole them, came to me to sell them. So 10 minutes. I said no. Mark calls me up and he's like, hey, he goes, this guy stole this stuff, whatever. He's like, he was just here. So I called another shop in town that sold magic at the time. And I was like, this dude's probably on his way. And he goes, he's here right now. And I was like, okay. He goes, I was like, hold him, just drag his shit out for a while.
Right.
And the owner, I guess, confronted the guy in the other store. So yeah, it was the cops didn't get involved, but it could have been very easily like showed up. This, like I said, we all watched out for each other that day. And
right.
So it's one of them definite, like I've said, you make your money. If you're going to go out trying to put another store out of business, you're probably going to put yourself out of business before you put the other store out of business.
Right.
Because you're going to do everything you can. You're going to cut your own throat. You're going to drop your prices. You're going to just do whatever you can, and you're going to screw yourself over. There's no money in competition. Well, there's money in competition, but there's no money in cutthroat competition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's what's the old adage? And I think there should be, there's up in Pickwick, there's 2 shops, right?
Yeah, there's me and the mall, yeah, and we work together.
Right, you guys work together. Yep. But I mean, I bet you if there was only one shop, neither one of you would do as well.
No.
Yeah, I mean, just because when there's 2 shops who are close together, and I think this is how it is. That and I've got examples to help prove it. But I think it's like a town with 1 lawyer, that lawyer goes broke. You get 2 lawyers and they both, become millionaires. Yeah. And I think the reason is because when you have more than one of the same kind, you become a destination. People, come from out of town or whatever, and they're like, let's go up to Are You Game? And while we're here, let's go run over and check the mall.
Yeah.
There used to be a street, and it may still be there, but in Denver. And it was called Sellers Row or Booksellers Row. And it was just store after store after store of high-end, rare prose books, books. And they all stayed open. They all, and it's because it was a destination. If you needed to find, that the 1880 pressing of Lewis and Clark's Expedition portfolio, that's where you had to go to get it, you know, and while you were there, of course, you're going to want to see this. And of course you want to see that. So it becomes destination. I always thought that here in Vandalia, that if there was another shop, then they both do great because, you know, rent's relatively cheap and it's not too far out of the city. And I think if you walked into one shop and it's like, man, do you have that Amazing Spider-Man #1? You're like, well, no, let me go check the other store, you know, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah. We it's kind of nice being that, because that's like, you know, I've watched, you know, I've worked in Dayton, I've worked at, you know, and I've watched all those stores down there, you know, grow, and I've also seen some come and go, but the ones that always seem to go were the ones that were like, yeah, I'm gonna put these other guys out of business.
Nope.
And they're gone. So
the stores that I like the best and the stores that stay open the longest, you know, when they build a culture around them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's, you know, you have gaming on the sides or your personality. Like the thing, when I first came back to comics, I ended up down at Fearless Readers, and I liked Bill.
Yeah.
I liked Bill at Fearless Readers, and I like going in to talk to him. I liked going in to the shop and just BSing with him for a while, you know, and that was just it. I kind of dug into that culture. I liked how the store was set up. I liked how things kept changing. There was always new stuff in. I remember walking in there one time and all the books were gone. I was like, what happened? Are you closing? He's like, no, I sold them. I'll have new books in a couple of weeks. You know, and that's what it was. It was a couple of weeks later and there was all new stock in. And, you know, just, but people, it's not so much the shop, it's the people that are there. People love the culture. And I think that's part of what happens in Gem City is that people, well, not me, but people like the people that come.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because it's funny because unfortunately, it's a good thing. It's a bad thing. Is my store gets too busy on Saturdays to be able to opt out and go down and actually set up at Gem City anymore.
Right.
But you know, because it's a little hard for me, you know, because I have, you know, I am by myself for the most part. I do have Mark, but I still try to make it down there, even if it's earlier in the day. If it's Sunday, I go down there. And some days I'm like, hey, I'm on the go, blah, blah, blah. I come in there. Literally, even if I'm in a hurry, there is no way that I can make it through there in a hurry. Everybody from the door to the door is like, it's like, where have you been? What's going on? You know, it's, you know, everything. And I'm like, yeah, dude, some of these guys, I'm like, I just saw you last week at the Jim and Dan show, but or whatever.
Right.
But, you know, and it's that whole, I joke around. I was like, you know, I do have my own my personal friends that I, you know, see but then I have my convention friends, and I got my, you know, the guys I hang out with at every Gem City Con. I got my friends that I hang out with at every Jim and Dan. I got there, you know, and, you know, we sit there and we bullshit, we talk, we have a good time. We talk comics, we talk toys, you know, we talk about every life in general, but, you know, and it's good having that, you know, that whole community and stuff like that. What I think is weird is that I'm on a Facebook page. It's like community comic book community retailers association or something like that.
Right.
And part of me wants to go, okay, man, it's like some of these guys are like, yeah, that's definitely what you do, you know. And then you got the other guy who goes, nah, and I'm like, man, I was like, because, you know, right now people are dealing with I don't know how you feel about this, but the people who bring, you know, because you don't have a shop, but people who bring their phones and then go for key collector, and they go through every box trying to find a key that, you know, that they might have underpriced, you know, because that book, you know, I had it on Mondays. If a book jumped up, I had people who were at my door Monday as soon as I opened, so they could hurry up and go through my boxes before I had a chance to do anything.
Right.
And, you know, and I'm not gonna lie, these guys scored some good books that were, you know, Friday they were $1 book, and then Monday they were $40-50.
Right.
So, you know, nowadays I have to go through, and I'm like, they're like, well, your book's ain't priced. I'm like, you got to come to the cash register, and I got to look everything up now.
Right.
I was like, I don't want to do it. I hate doing that. I like
don't do it. Don't do it, Paul. Don't. I'm serious. No, because you price on a margin, right?
Yeah.
You price on a margin. that's your margin. You've already made that money, and if you catch something, like if you decide you're going to go through, or if you decide Mark needs to go through and pull out books that are gone up in price, and you're like, what's the book this jumped up not too long ago?
Yeah.
All right. Say this is in your, it's a $5 book or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden it jumps up, and what is it? It's like 30, 40. Yeah. I have no idea. But I paid a nickel. I paid a nickel 10 years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I got a bunch of them.
So $5 on a nickel is a good margin.
Yeah.
It's a margin that keeps the lights on.
But it's one of the things that it's, I do scour my stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I go through it.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
Most part I go through and I just kind of glance at it, and it's $1. Right. So I don't charge, if it's a $4 cover price book, it's $1. Right. I buy bulk for that reason, to keep my book prices cheap. Occasionally I find really good shit in my bulk boxes. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I went through and I bought stuff I never stopped buying during quarantine. So even when my shop was shut down, I was still bringing in collections when I could. And, because I luckily was one of the people still making money during that. And
when this is all over, we'll talk about it. But I mean, quarantine has been great for online comics. Just, I never did better. I sold my Amazon store. I had to close it because I sold out of everything. I mean, I went and found, eventually I got out and got more books and stuff, but anything that was priced under $30, I sold everything. And I had like 1,500 things listed at one time. Now I think I'm back up to like 300. Damn. But, because people didn't know what to do. But yeah, if you got to, scour your books, look through them and stuff. But if someone finds a steal, that book, they're going to, pay you $1 for it. You've already done a huge margin if you bought it like for 3 cents or a nickel.
Oh yeah,
that's great. And they're going to hold on to that book because they're collectors or they're flippers.
Yeah, most of them people were speculators to hurry up and just buy it so they can flip it.
They're not going to make that margin on that book if they keep it a month.
Yeah.
If they keep it 30 days, you forget about it.
Yeah. See, what I'm running into now though is the one thing I do got to watch is I think I caught him, and I think I finally got him out of the store. I have a guy who I had my bulk stuff over here, my cheap shit, my dollar stuff. And then I had some boxes of stuff that was $10 and higher or whatever.
Right. And, I know how you have your stuff set up.
Yeah. And one day I'm sitting there, I had a customer ask for a book, and I'm like, I know I have this book. So I scoured through my boxes. It's nowhere to be found. I'm like, did I sell it when, did Mark sell it, or somebody, my kid sell it while I wasn't in one day, or while I was out doing errands or whatever? So I asked Mark. Mark's like, I didn't sell that book. I asked Joe. Joe didn't sell that book. A couple days later, this guy comes up to me with a bunch of stuff out of the dollar boxes, and he hands me it to me, and literally that book's on top. And I'm like, where did you get this? He goes, oh, it was over there. I'm like, the book should not have been over there. I was like, somebody pulled that out, and the sticker had been peeled off of it and everything, and it was shoved into the dollar stock. I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I said, that's not supposed to be over there. Somebody took that out of the different price boxes and tore the price sticker off of it. But the guy understood. He's like, whatever. And I'm like, okay. So he bought the dollar stock, and I took the other ones. Well, about 2 weeks later, I had the box priced again, put back in the boxes. Guess what? Came up missing again.
Right.
Same dude came up. He goes, well, I found it in a dollar box again. I'm like, no, you didn't. And he's like, well, that's where I found it. And I'm like,
See, that's such a rookie move though, too. That's stuff that I did when I was like, would ride my bike up to the funny farm, like 9 and 10 years old. The other thing I would do, and I know there's people in your store that do it. You go through it and you find a bunch of books that you want to buy for later, and you don't want somebody else to find it. And you don't have, I don't have $5 on me right now.
Yeah, you shove them in
I'm going to take this P book and I'm going to put it in the Z's. Nobody will find it there.
Yeah.
And Funny Farm, I always had a stack of books in the Z's.
Well, my problem is that the price sticker being peeled off.
Yeah, that's
Knowing full well that this guy is trying to get, and I'm like, nah, I was like, this is a $10 book. I was like, somebody keeps peeling the sticker off of it. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, it was suspicious. I didn't call the guy out that time, but it was still in my head. And about a month later, he comes up again with another stack of books. And there's another book that was out of my high dollar boxes, price sticker missing, sitting right in the middle or on, you know, close to the top. I'm like, dude, I was like, yeah, I was like, if I ever find out who keeps pulling these stickers off, I'm gonna beat their ass. And I was sitting there just kind of, I was pissed. And I was like, yeah, I was like, if I ever find out, and I said, I'm gonna go back and look at my cameras. And the guy got like, eyes got real big. And he's like, I'll just get the rest of these. Just I'm like, never seen the guy again. So it was one of the ones where I think he was like, oh shit, okay, I got busted. So, but you know, and I get that. I get a lot of stuff like I have one guy who comes in and he's always wanting to trade video games all the time. And every time he comes in, he goes, well, we trade even up for this one. I'm like, what game is that? And he goes, oh, it doesn't have a price sticker on there. And I'm like, it's awful funny that you only find the ones with no price stickers on there when I know I priced it yesterday. And then, of course, Mark calls me up when he's working.
Right.
You got to price your books or you price this. I'm like, it was priced yesterday. That's not on me, man.
Right.
And or you get the people who will, you know, you can't tell them to stay out of stuff. You know, they'll go through everything.
Right.
So if you turn your back, they're digging through a box that you have setting off to the side or whatever.
That's me. If there's a box visible, I'm going through it.
See, you're different. I'll let you because you're just you're not a guy who shows up every 6 months and just randomly comes into the store. And
I try to ask and stuff, and shows are tough because everyone's so cut. You know, there's all the sharks in the room and stuff, and I try to ask and stuff. But honestly, if that book's on top of the table, I'm going through it.
Yep. It's. I got lucky the other day. I had a friend who decided he was going to stop collecting. No, he's not out completely.
Right.
He's a good friend, Brent. He's like, you want to buy my stuff? And I'm like, yes, I do, because I know what you have. And don't get me wrong, he has tons of garbage because he's, you know, he likes a certain character, so he loves the Flash. So there's tons and tons of the Flash. Most of it's not worth anything.
Right.
But you know, I knew that he had this book, he had this book, he had this book, he had this book. So I paid, you know, a good chunk of money just for essentially a short box. All the rest of it was.
Well, that's how it always is.
Yeah. Well, I bought a collection a few years back, and literally I wanted 3 books. Of course, one was you know, Amazing 129, and was it 128, 129, and then like 130 something, you know, but it was like these, like the Earth Punisher, and I was like, I bought the collection for essentially 4 books. The rest of the comics were. So
I always tell people it's a 10% rule. Is that you're lucky if there are 10% of these books.
Oh man, you're cutting in and out here. I think I lost you.
You've got a good deal is if there's 10 books worth $100 together out of a collection. That's how it is. You know, and that's a good collection. 10% is a good collection. Usually there might be like 40 books that are worth what you paid for the whole collection, and then it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Well, it's like I joke around. It's like I've got 200 long boxes and probably another 200 short boxes in my own personal collection. And I was like, I know that there is, you know, 200 long boxes worth of stuff that's not worth anything. It's all, but you know, I also have a pretty good run of X-Men. I have X-Men pretty much from, I think, I'm missing like 20 issues of Uncanny. That's it. Yeah, it's relatively small amount. And yeah, that's worth a lot of money, but literally that takes up two long boxes. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and right behind
Man.
it, you can't, it's 25 boxes of my personal collection. And I know
My internet, I don't know if my internet's crap or your internet's crap.
never did them again. And yeah, but if one of those books gets hot and expensive, you believe I'm pulling it out. So there are no keys over there. Every one of those keys got pulled after they became hot. Like the detective, what is it, 880 or 888, the one, the Jacques cover with the Joker and the bats.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah, I pulled that out. I pulled that out, graded it, and sold it. It's gone. It's now there's a hole in my collection, and it doesn't bother me anymore. It used to bother me to no end. Now I don't care.
I have horrible OCD, and it gets bad sometimes. Sometimes I can let stuff slide. It's whatever.
Right.
The worst part about it is right now, I compulsively collect X books. Have since I was a little kid, and some of them are horrible right now, just atrocious. And my brain is still like, no, it's X. You should get it, and then I immediately regret it, and it's sitting there, and I'm like, I had to tell Mark today, I'm like, dude, I was like, do not let me order any more X-Core. That book's bad. I was like, if I could retroactively cancel the book before I got the first issue, I would, just so I wouldn't have any of them. So, okay, I pulled relatively recently. I was one of the people who bought Something's Killing the Children when it dropped.
Right.
It sounded interesting to me. I picked it up. I picked up like the first 5 or 6 issues, and to be honest,
right,
I think it's okay. I'm not a big fan of it. I know there are people who, and I'm sitting there staring at it, and I looked it up. I'm like, okay, that's a $250 book.
Wow.
Or something like that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna send it off to get graded. I just got it back relatively recently. It's a 9.8. It's it has $1,300 now. So
I was gonna say that's like over 1,000.
Yep. Well, the worst part about it is that the day I priced it, like several others sold it 12 to 13, one sold for 17. And I'm like, it's setting up in the shelf. I'm going to take that with me to the next show. And because it's never going to sell in my shop. My shop's too small.
Right.
But I got the Venom First Host. I got the second prints. I'm like, I don't care. I got the first prints. I got the series. Those aren't worth much of anything. That second print's worth, I think I got 300 on it. This is a 9.8.
Wow.
But the worst part about it is, if I would have got it when I shipped it off, it was like 6 when I shipped it off. So
right.
That's one. I hate that. That's what, or I don't know how you feel about this. I got to bring this up.
Okay.
I'm hearing these horror stories of CGC, and I think I was part of it. I sent off some books that if I didn't think it would bring at least a 9 or higher, it was not getting shipped out.
Right.
But I got 3 books back, and everything. I have 2 books that are 8.5s.
Right.
I'm looking at them. I can't figure out what's making them 8.5s.
Yep.
Out of the 3 books I got, one is a 9.2, and I think the 9.2 is not in as good a shape as both the 8.5s.
I'm tempted to go get a book to show you.
Well, then the other one is that I sent out one of the Target exclusive Star Wars Clone War books, the square bound one.
Right.
I sent it out, and of course it's odd size, so I stuck it in a regular bag and board, and I shipped it out, and it came back, and there's like, it's got thumbprints on the back, so it's a 9.2 or a 9.4 or something like that. I'm like, those thumbprints were not on that book when it left my store.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want to be a dick because, and somebody brought this up. They're like, it is not in CGC's, it's in their favor to grade low. because what you'll do is if you get a book and you think that it's going to grade higher, you're going to bust it open, press it or clean it or whatever, ship it back to them, pay them yet again to get it graded again, and then get it sent back to hope that 8.5 is now a 9.2 or a 9.4 or, you know, whatever. And I'm like sitting there going, God, that makes so much sense. Because to be honest, like I said, those 8.5s, I do not think are 8.5s. And I know that 9.2, I would say that was an 8.5. And I think the 8.5s might be, you know, so.
See, I see, I don't think it kills me because CGC makes too much money to worry about a $17 submission. I mean, or whatever it is at the regular submission. I think what does a regular submission cost? $22 for a modern book plus insurance?
Yeah, something like that.
All right. I've got a gold, platinum, whatever membership, and I think they're $17 plus shipping.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not a lot of money to ruin your reputation over.
I know, but it's still.
But that's what happened with PXG. PXG was a good grading service, but they got caught swapping books. And I don't think it was any of the people that owned it. It was maybe some of their graders or something got caught swapping books. And that was it. They changed ownership and they still have problems.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, I thought that when they first came out, I thought this is going to be a serious competitor because their holders were cool. The information was good and looked like they graded pretty hard on some stuff, but got caught swapping, over, done with. And it would, I don't know that CGC would do that because it seems like such small potatoes to me. But I don't know that I don't know their business, so maybe it is worth them. People always ask me about, well, do you trust them to handle your books with care? And I said, well, you're sending in a Surf's Up Pokemon. You're sending in a Surf's Up Pokemon. You can't. They're not going to screw up your book. For the Batman #1 that comes in, for the Detective 27. But you're right. Not only did I wait a huge amount of time for my books to come back, I had 2 orders of 50. So it was on 2 sheets and all that, 2 stuff. And they just took forever. I'm talking like November, it was over COVID and stuff. So I know they were super busy, but I sent them in like in November and I think I got them back in late April.
See, we shipped ours out in February. They didn't get them until almost the end of March because they have that weird, because they got a warehouse that shit just sets in until it gets checked in. And then the actual grading time frames, and now their grading time frame just keeps getting further and further and further and further. We've still got a handful of books out. Luckily, my books that I shipped out all came back. I believe Mark has some. We had another customer who got a couple. They still haven't got their books back because those.
I'm going to tell you a dirty secret, and everybody who's listening is going to learn this dirty secret too. When something is time sensitive or when I don't want to wait as long, one book in a tier, like if I'm sending in a bunch of modern books, I will select one of those books as express service. So when it comes in, I plaster the whole thing with express. And it seems to me that those books go through at express. But just one book.
Just one book. Just got to have one book.
Now, I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of that. I'm sure I'm not the only person that has ever done it. I'm sure that they're hip to it because but I mean, that's what I've done. I've done that in the past. If it's a whole bunch of them. The book that came back 9.8 for me, and sometime when you're over, I'll have to show it to you when I bring them out. I think I'm not going to have them out till Baltimore, but I sent in all the McFarlane books from Spider-Man, from 298 to 103, that including a newsstand 300. That was nice, very nice. The 101 was dirty, or the 301 was dirty. You know, I tried to clean it off with some Absorbine, but it was just dirty. And I said, if that's the one that comes back 8.0, you know, then I'll have somebody that can just grab a whole set of them. I really thought it was going to come back 9.6, 9.4 at the lowest. And the 300, everything else came above 9.0. The 300 was 8.5. And I might as well throw it away. I mean, I'm not really, but I mean, it's like $1,000, but I'm just like, it should not have come back that low. And I have considered breaking it out and resubmitting it.
Well, I had a customer who picked up a 300, and he brought it in. He asked me and Mark we both looked at this book and we're like, it's a good copy, you know, if you know, whatever. He goes, you know what? He goes, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna grade it, I'm gonna throw it in my own personal collection. I was like, dude, do that. I was like, you know, it's whatever. It's like, I keep thinking about sending my Star Wars #1 out. I'd be happy if it came back at 8, because it's an old ass, you know, 1977 Star Wars #1.
Right.
But he sent it out. I think me and Mark both said, you know, you probably get a 7.5 to an 8.
Right.
If you're lucky, you know, because there's a ding here, some spine damage, a little bit of roll, whatever. And shipped it out, and he gets that thing back and it's like a 9.6. And I'm like, dude, and I'm like sitting there because I'm looking at the book encapsulated. I'm like, that's not the book you sent out. There's no way that is the book. I was like, because I remember there being dings on his spine, and there are no dings on his spine.
Right.
And, you know, it's like, ooh, you know what? That's it. You got Ed's. When did you ship yours out? But
oh,
you know,
wow.
And it's one of the ones where I just like that can, and I mean, good for Ed, you know, he came out way ahead. Sweet. I'm not gonna lie, you know, whatever. But I'm just looking, and to this day, you will never convince me that book encapsulated is the same book that he brought in the shop to send out. Right.
It's weird too, that sometimes when I look at books and holders, I see stuff that I didn't see before. Like I've got, what is it? A 135 second Punisher. And it had a little bit of nick out of the corner, right? Just, it's the smallest little thing. It was there. It got sent in. It came back 9.0 with that little nick out of it. Just talking like a pinhead that I noticed and stuff. But when the book came back in, and I'm looking at it in the holder, I'm like, there's a little tweak here. No, I never saw that. There's a little tweak here. I never saw that. It's like, if I had seen those 2 tweaks, I would have never sent it in. Now, the other thing is I had a Punisher, not a Punisher, but a Preacher #1, 9.8. That came back 9.8. And I said, like, wow, that's great. I started looking at it. And I was like, holy crap. If I had seen that, I would have never sent that book in. Or if I had seen that thing on the back, I would have never sent that book in. How did that come back 9.8? I don't know.
Well, that's what's funny is that I tell people this. I was like, you would not want me working for CGC. I was like, one is that I don't think a 10 exists. You will never convince me that there's a perfect book out there. I was like, I've been in this business more of my life than I haven't been in this business. You know, I've been working in comic book stores since I was 15, collecting since I was a little kid, but now I've worked in a printing company.
Right.
I've printed comic books. I mean, they're indie books, whatever. But I've printed them, and I've looked at books that have come off the press, fresh, bound, everything. Strictly, no other human being has probably touched. You know, I probably touched them 5 times, get them to this point. But I'm sitting here, so you know, they come off the printer. They got to go through the cutter. They go through the stitcher. They go through the binding and stuff like that. You got to go through all that. There is no way a book can go through that without getting dings. Right. There's no way. And you're talking like, especially comics on the scale that Marvel, DC, Image, and all that shit produces.
Right.
There is no way you're going to get a perfect book. And I don't think it's possible.
Right.
And I was like, so I'm sitting there and I look for everything. And I've had people come in and bring me books, and I'm like, dude, I was like, I wouldn't send this in. Oh, it's it's first appearance. I'm like, that's gonna be, I feel like it's gonna be like a 7. Right. And and I grade hard, and they'll get it back and it's an 8 or something like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm grading hard, but I'm always super you know, I don't know.
Right.
Hyper focused.
I suffer a lot from the opposite. Like I will fall in love with a book and decide, oh man, and you stop seeing its flaws. I had in fact, it's over there. I keep a box of CGC stuff that I call my box of shame, because it's stuff that I misjudged so poorly. You know, it's the first appearance of Cheryl Blossom. And I love this book. It's a beautiful book. It's Cheryl Blossom cover. It's got the good gag on the front. And it's fantastic. I love the book. I loved it. Sent it into CGC. Got it pressed by Al Stoltz. Sent it into CGC. I was like, oh man, this is going to be 9/4. It's going to be great, because I love Archie books too. I just think they're just awesome. Came back and it's a green label. It's like, what? So I'm looking at it and stuff, and I read the notes, and it's like, there's crap cut out of it. It's missing a whole page. It's got ads cut out of it. I was like, did I even look at that book? Did I even open it? I'm like, no, I didn't. But yeah, you fall in love with it and you just stop seeing its flaws. I've got a whole box over there, the stuff that I used to love, and now I can't stand to look at it. But I keep it around as an abject lesson.
Well, see, what's funny is it seems like every time I buy a collection, I end up with a handful of graded books. And some of the books that people have sent out to be graded, I'm like, are you crazy?
Right.
Like I got like a random ass issue of Preacher, and it was graded at a 7. And I'm like, I threw it on a shelf because got it in the collection. I put it $5 on it, threw it on the shelf. I was like, because it's worthless. I was like, it's literally a dollar. And then I've got a guy that I know who he just keeps sending books in to get graded, and he's sending stuff that I can go right now to any comic book store probably in the area, walk through their dollar boxes or their cheap boxes and pull it out because there's no value to it, and he sent it off to get graded. And I'm like, dude, you're gonna, if you're lucky, you'll break even. That's if you're lucky. I have a guy who keeps trying to sell me a stack of graded books that there is no value to. And I'm like, I've told him that like a dozen times, and I'm like, dude, I was like, your random issue of Avengers is not, he goes, well, it's graded. I'm like, so it's graded. It's not even a 9. It's like an 8.4. And I was like, I'm literally going to buy it, and I'll put $5 to $10 on it, and I'll throw it on a shelf because somebody will buy a super cheap graded book just to throw in their collection. Right. And that's where I sell those. And I was like, dude, so I'm not going to give you much for it. I was like, and he goes, well, I bought it. It was part of another collection. I was like, then I had to be part of somebody. I want to trace it back. I want to get one of these, go find the barcode and find the original guy who sent that book in and go, why did you?
Go ahead. I have a friend. I have a friend that at shows and stuff, we'll bet each other stuff. Like, I bet you that girl over there trips, or I bet you that guy's, his books are going to fall on the ground and stuff. And we'll bet. It's like, well, if I win, you have to pay for grading of a book that I choose, and it'll be shipped back to you or whatever. Like, usually this is at Baltimore. He sets up across from us at Baltimore, and we'll do that. And last year he won. I paid the graded book, and he wouldn't tell me what it is. You want me to go get it?
Yeah, sure.
I'll show you the book that I graded.
Okay.
The Amazing Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk will return after these messages.
He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe!
It's Major Blood in the Cobra Copter. They're after Gong Ho. Get the G.I. Joe Dragonfly Copter. Wild Bill to the rescue. Major Blood, look. Let's get out of here. Cobra's turning tail. Want to lift, good buddy?
G.I. Joe! American hero.
G.I. Joe Dragonfly Copter comes with Wild Bill, other figures and equipment, each sold separately from Hasbro.
It's the perfect time.
We've stolen the world's supply of new pink lemonade bubbly up.
It tastes like pink lemonade.
It's the new taste everyone's after.
Uh-oh. It is I, Detective Yum Finder, now to upset Bubble Yum Bubble Gum.
But pink lemonade makes big pink bubbles.
You're all washed to pop off.
But it's you who's going to wave goodbye, Yum Finder!
New pink lemonade bubble yum, the big taste everyone's after.
Well, there used to be a guy that used to see set up next to us at almost every Jim and Dan show. Guy had boxes upon boxes of graded stuff that was only a couple of, at that point, a few months old. And you're like, none of this is worth anything. I was like, and pardon me, I bought a few issues because there were just some random Star Wars books that I bought at like 20, 25 bucks a piece. And I was like, why did you grade these? I didn't. He said, I bought a collection. This was from a store. They probably had to send a week's worth of books out and got everything graded. Because I'm like, it's literally just random issues of Star Wars comics at the time that weren't worth anything. And I bought some, took them home, and sold them to some of my Star Wars collectors so they could just have graded comics. So let's see what you got.
So I paid a regular submission and plus express because I lost the bet with him, and it is a 7.0. What is it? It's Army Surplus Comics featuring Cutie Bunny, #1.
That's horrible and funny at the same time.
Because I lost the bet, and he's like, "All right, well, I'll pick out a book, and you got to pay for the grading." It's like, "All right," so that's what I got.
I think I'm going to send off because I have my first store exclusive comic.
Oh, nice.
It's the Wendell. It's from that guy C. Raymond, the one that's been on my show. He's phenomenal artist. I love his stuff. Matter of fact, I would bring him to try to get him at Gem City, or I'd have him at my show, but he lives in Arkansas. So I would, love to have him here. But I'm thinking, because I have the first issue, because I have the 50 issue run, I have the first one signed, 1 of 50. And I think I'm going to get that graded just so I can have it. I don't care if it comes back a 5, whatever.
Right.
But it's mine. It's my first store exclusive book.
That's awesome. But this is what I'm going to do, because my friend Sean put together. They did a self-published book, or they have a character called what's her name now? Scarlet Huntress.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, and she he put together a Kickstarter and asked his friends to do illustrations for it, and I did an illustration for one of the books. This is a field guide of all her cryptids that she comes across in her adventures, whatever. And I drew a Mongolian worm or something like that, and so I have a credit in the book. So I'm going to pick one up at Gem City, have it witnessed, signature, and send it in. So I'll have my own signature on a book.
See, that's the sad part is that I actually have, it's funny because it's sitting on my back wall of my shop. I have the last page of a book I wrote. I have the artwork from the very last page of the book hanging on the wall. I think the book's done. I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day, but I own the last page. Shout out to Jay, because I love you to death, but I'd love to see my book done.
Just got to get it done.
Oh yeah, well, right now I'm talking to C about working on one of my other books, and it's just one of the ones that I got to pay an artist to do the art on it because I can't draw for shit anymore. So
the eyes go.
Yeah, well, mine is that my hands hurt from years of working in factories, so like to grip shit and I went from drawing when I was younger to like a Paul Smith style artwork, really kind of smooth. That the last time I drew, I'm just sitting there. It's really hard. It's like Sinkovich style artwork. So I can basically draw enough that I can go, okay, this is what this character looks like.
Right.
And I can make it look nightmarish. And then I'm like, here you go, draw that. So,
all right, Paul, I'm running out of time. I got to talk.
Yep.
About this stuff.
All right. Well, I will get you here. Yet again, tell us Gem City, July With the last weekend in
Right, July 24, 25, 2020. We've got some great guests. www. Do people still say that, or they just go like gemcitycomiccon.com, and we're
Gem
on
City
the
yeah.
Facebook and stuff like that.
When's the next show you're going to be at? You going to be at the Jim and Dan show next week?
No, I'm going to be. We've got my Detroit show is that same weekend, so I'm going to be up in Detroit.
Because I just told them, they asked me where I want to be set up next to him. I'm like, I just set me up like next to Jesse, like I always am. So
well, they know that I'm not there, because I was talking to him and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be in Detroit, and he knew that when they got those dates. But yeah, I'm going to be up in Detroit that weekend and with Billy and stuff like that. And tell you what, little shows have been fun. Like we were able to get that one off a whole bunch, and we were able to get the Indiana show off. We need to get you to come back to that one if you can get to it.
Yeah, I want to try to get that done. I got to go. I got to get my van fixed. So yeah, I got no brakes on it right now. So
yeah, it's not good to drive like that, especially on the highway.
Oh no, especially when that damn thing's full of books. Thing's a bitch trying to drive when the brakes are good. So
right,
yeah, I've been doing it for how long now? So I burn out so many vans over the years. So
right.
It's like before you go, I cannot remember his name. He comes up from Kentucky. I almost always buy his books off of him, but he literally fits like 20 boxes in a Toyota like Corolla. And I was like, how?
My last garage sale, he came up and bought the bulk of it at the end of it. And it was, no kidding, it was 25 boxes, and he had a Dodge Challenger, and he fit it all in it.
Did you see the pictures of me loading up my my Magnum when I bought that collection? I had every square inch. I'm sitting in my seat like this. So my passenger seat full, console full, floor full, the whole back full, and it's jam packed. I actually started taking shit out of the box so I could just shove it in.
Yeah, I've done that. We bought a store down in Kentucky, and that's what it was like. It was like we took everything out of the packages, out of the boxes, opened up cases of Marvel Selects and just jammed them in every open little spot. But yeah.
Yep. So, all right.
This is fun. We need to do this more often. This would be easy.
Oh yeah.
It's just like talking to you in the garage or something.
Oh yeah. Well, we can always just let me know and we'll do it. And maybe I can get other people, because Mark was going to come in, but he's actually at the movies right now. Well, yeah, he's probably still at the movies. He went and seen the Hitman's Bodyguard's wife.
Nice.
So yeah, and maybe I can get some more people, and I'd like you to meet C. So whatever, and
cool.
And get everybody up here so we can have all this going all at once. So
right.
But I'm glad you stopped hang out with us for an hour or so, and we got to go hang out and have dinner or something, because I think we keep wanting to go down to, what's the pizza place in Vandalia? Hairless Hair.
Oh yeah. I got a gift certificate there too.
Yeah, because we were talking about doing that a while back, and then I was like, I tried to get a hold of you or something, or I was gonna get a hold of you, but I'm literally like driving down the interstate. I'm like, so I was like, nah, maybe next time. But yeah, we'll all get together. Me and you, Mark, and my buddy Bone will come down, and we'll all hang out, and
that'd be fun.
And we can all have pizza and hang out. So
yeah.
All right. Well, you guys, you have a good night. Tell everybody I said hey. Tell Bill I said hi, and Izzy and all them, and I will talk to you later, sir.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Is that like a hard close, or are you going to edit that part out?
Yeah, I can edit this out, because I'm going to edit the end, the extra, so the outro.
All right.
So cool. All right, man. Later.
All right, take it easy.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Leave meeting.
Leave meeting. There we go. All right. That is all for tonight's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. Jesse will be back for some more fun. And you all have a good night. And remember, we're not licensed therapists. Before I forget, remember, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Podbean. We are growing constantly. If you can help us out on Patreon, that would be awesome. We are always wanting to get more back to everybody. So thank you, and everybody have a good night. Bye.